Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're trying to cut through all the noise and finally decode those totally intimidating financial concepts you hear thrown around all the time, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break down the entire economic system, and we're going to do it by following the linear, step-by-step journey of a single, hard-earned paycheck. Think of this as your beginner-friendly study guide that'll take you from earning your very first dollars to actually making them work for you. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our survival guide syllabus for the day. We'll start with the first paycheck reality. Look inside the bank vault, uncover the invisible thief of inflation, play the credit game, examine the illusion of money, and finally, cover investing for the future.
Starting with Chapter 1, the first paycheck reality and the cost of civilization.
Okay, picture this scenario. You've been slaving away all month flipping burgers at McDonald's. You get an alert saying you've been paid your gross $2,000. You open your app, totally pumped, expecting a massive payday, but instead you see this number, $1,456. I mean, it's the ultimate shock to the system, right? You scroll down your pay stub to see what on earth happened, and you're officially introduced to the modern ritual of giving away a chunk of your money.
Those invisible forces taking a bite out of your check actually have names: federal income tax, state tax, Social Security, and Medicare. And they fully expect you to say thank you. But look, here's the basic reality of managing a personal budget. Taxes are really just the cost of civilization. The government takes a little bit of every dollar to build roads, fund schools, and make sure your absolute favorite local taco truck isn't, infested with rats. And what about those other two deductions? Well, Social Security is basically the government forcing you to save money right now so it can be paid back to you over time when you eventually retire. And Medicare is a health insurance tax supporting older folks or people with serious health issues. Yes, it is an incredibly annoying bite out of your paycheck, for sure. But generally speaking, countries with higher tax rates tend to have a higher overall quality of life.
Moving on to Chapter 2, Inside the Bank Vault and What Really Happens to Your Money.
Time for a quick quiz. You hand the bank teller your money, they smile, and it's magically added to your account app. Do you walk out of there assuming your cash is just sitting in some massive, impenetrable vault somewhere, being guarded by a fire-breathing dragon? Most beginners kind of think banks are just these giant safes with one single job, guarding people's physical money. But the wild reality? That money is already gone.
So the crucial point here is that banks are actually just middlemen. They're basically matchmakers for financial transactions. This whole system is called fractional reserve banking. When you deposit $1,000, the bank literally takes 900 of it and gives it to someone else who wants to take out a loan to buy, say, a brand new jet ski. The entire system relies on the idea that they only need to keep a tiny fraction of deposits on hand, simply because not everyone is going to show up on the exact same day demanding to withdraw 100% of their account. And hey, don't worry, it's actually incredibly safe. In the US, the government assures you that your money in the bank is completely insured up to $250,000 per person.
Let's continue our quiz section. We know the bank lends your money out, but how does the bank actually make money doing this? And honestly, more importantly for your personal budget, how does a simple $12 burrito bought on a credit card suddenly turn into a $50 regret? The answer is interest. Think of interest as money's way of charging rent to exist in someone else's hands.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive difference between these two concepts. Simple interest is super straightforward. It's like a flat fee. If you invest $100 at 7% simple interest, you just get $7 a year forever. Simple. But compound interest? Oh man, that's where every dollar gets clones, and then those clones start demanding rent too. If you invest that same $100 at 7% compound interest, your money literally duplicates itself, compounding year after year until you wake up rich. But be careful, because it works the exact same way for debt. If you owe 20% interest on a credit card and you miss a payment, your interest starts earning interest. That right there is exactly how the $12 burrito turns into a $50 financial fire.
Chapter 3, The Invisible Thief, Known as Inflation.
So, you've saved up some money, right? And you go to spend it, but you realize something is kind of wrong. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's happening through a real-world example of buying a television. Imagine a store has 1,000 TVs for sale, originally priced at $500. But suddenly, everyone in town has extra cash, and 2,000 people show up wanting to buy this specific TV. The business sees this massive demand against their super limited supply and says, "Oh, everyone wants this? Cool, that'll be $800 now."
That scenario?
That's inflation in action. It is the slow, quiet erosion of your money's purchasing power over time. It doesn't happen overnight with big dramatic fireworks, it's gradual. Your $5 bill is still technically a $5 bill, but it buys way fewer instant noodles and way less gas than it did last year. Now, a little inflation, like 2% a year, is actually totally normal and predictable for a healthy economy. But if it spikes, your savings start to die and your wages start lagging way behind. When this occurs, the government has to step in to fight it by raising interest rates. This makes getting a loan way more expensive, which means people have less money to spend on things like those TVs, which ultimately cools off the entire economy.
Chapter 4, Playing the Credit Game and the Shadowy Algorithm. As you navigate the financial world, you are inevitably going to encounter a shadowy algorithm. It's a 3-digit number, ranging from 300 to 850, that literally decides if you get to buy a house or if you're stuck with a soul-crushing interest rate. Lenders just want to know if they can trust you. So here is your beginner checklist of 3 practical actions to rig this game in your favor. Number 1, payment history. You absolutely must make your required payments before the late period hits. Number 2, credit utilization. Don't go maxing out your available credit, keep it low. And number 3, build your credit age and mix. Having a solid variety of older accounts helps immensely. Honestly, think of your credit score kind of like a pet dog. If you ignore it, it poops all over your life. But if you take care of it, feed it, and manage it, someday it might just help you buy a house.
Chapter 5. The Illusion of Money and Belief-Based Systems.
Let's take a philosophical step back for a second, because the absolute weirdest part about money is that it's actually not real. Look at this comparison, a dollar bill versus a stick. Inherently, there is literally no more legitimacy to a piece of paper with a president's face on it than there is to a stick you just found out in the woods. The single solitary reason a dollar bill can buy you dinner and a stick cannot is the fact that we as a society have all collectively agreed that the government-printed dollar is worth something. Currency is entirely a social construct built on shared belief and trust. Crazy, right?
And this isn't just some modern concept. Think back to the historical gold standard. Imagine you pick up an average rock off the ground. Now imagine that rock is shiny and yellow. Gold isn't actually worth more than an average rock in any objective, universal sense. It's simply rarer, and humans collectively placed a much higher perceived value on it. Understanding this perceived value is exactly how people become rich. It's the reason millions of people will gladly hand over thousands of dollars for the perceived value of a new iPhone. It's the exact same reason Gucci or Louis Vuitton can sell a handbag that's functionally similar to one at Target but charge 100 times the price. People perceive it as more valuable, so it is.
Let's move to Chapter 6, Investing for the Future, and see how this all builds into actually beating the system.
Now that you know inflation is constantly in the background trying to make your money less valuable, you absolutely have to transition from just trading your time for money to trading your money for more money. Here is a breakdown of the primary vehicles you can use to do this. And keep in mind, each comes with its own unique risk levels. You can buy stocks, which are just tiny ownership slices of actual companies. You can buy bonds, which basically means you are loaning your money to a government or a company in exchange for interest. You can buy funds, which are awesome diversified collections of stocks and bonds, so you don't have to go stressing over picking winners one by one. Or you can buy real estate, hoping someone else eventually pays to live in a property you own. The biggest takeaway? Investing isn't about getting lucky or winning the lottery. It's about being early, being heavily diversified, and being incredibly patient despite the market risks.
And look, speaking of market risks, we have to mention recessions. The economic cycle is pretty straightforward. It's boom, peak, bust, and reset. Think of the economy as a massive party. In the boom phase, everyone is out on the floor dancing. But eventually, reality hits, the lights come on, and suddenly the DJ is playing sad, lo-fi beats about corporate downsizing. Layoffs happen, and people stop buying things they don't actually need. Recessions are definitely painful resets, but you have to remember, they aren't forever. Eventually, spending returns, businesses rebuild, and the cycle starts again.
Which brings us to the ultimate secret weapon you have in your arsenal: time. Time is, without a doubt, the most valuable asset in the world. Real wealth isn't built in days, it's built in decades. Money that sits quietly in a good investment multiplies, slowly at first, and then faster and faster. This is exactly how completely ordinary people with modest fast food paychecks can end up retiring with 7 figures in the bank. They didn't somehow magically beat the system. They simply used the system.
And that leaves us with one final, absolutely crucial question for your financial survival journey.
Now that you know exactly how the vault works, how compound interest multiplies your money, and how value is perceived in our society, will you just let inflation quietly steal your future value? Or will you harness time to let your money duplicate itself? The choice in your entire financial future is entirely in your hands. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.